Welcome back everyone. Today, this might be our biggest video. We are going to break down and find out which is the best hollow body iron on the market. To save the video from being 4 hours long, we've picked 4 irons, okay? And we feel like these are the biggest contenders. We do a lot with them in the fitting bay. They are all in the same loft category, barring half a degree of a split. Okay, let's tell you exactly which ones we're going to test. TaylorMade's P790.
Yep.
Callaway's Ai 200. Mizuno's 245. Pro 245 and Titleist's brand new T-Series T250. What do you think we're going to see here?
You know what? They're all really good golf clubs, as we mentioned before. But they're all a little different too. So I don't know. They're all good golf clubs. The TaylorMade and the Callaway Apex and 790 have been our #1 and 2 sellers. Titleist does really well as well. Mizuno makes great golf clubs. So tough to call it, really.
Okay.
Who knows?
Well, we are not just going to hit on the robot. We're not just going to give you our opinion. Here's what we're going to do. We have a 90-mile-an-hour robot test because there's definitely players out there hitting these at that speed. Yep. We have got 80-mile-an-hour test that's been collated and verified by Dr. Tom Mace. We have also 3D scanned these golf clubs. That might sound a bit fairy and fluffy, right, but this may be the most important information that you're going to find out about this set of golf clubs.
Yeah, because they're all relatively similar, right? So.
Yep. Hang in there for the 3D scan data. We're really going to break down what the differences are. First things first, we've got the P790 snapped into the robot. We're going to hit it at 90 miles an hour, and we'll run a comparison with all 4 heads just to see what they do. Let's kick it off.
Fire away.
This one.
Right down the middle.
Oof. Okay. 2 disclaimers. First disclaimer is we haven't dialed in the tour speed yet. Tour speed test is actually going to be 95. We're going to go for tour, right, like PGA Tour average. But we have dialed in our 80-mile-an-hour test. So if you've been watching since the Callaway X-Forged video, every 80-mile-an-hour test has been the same data. So you can start going back and doing all the crazy things we know you do to compare irons, but we're also going to do it live here for you. So this 90-mile-an-hour test with the P790, we got 4,600 RPMs, carrying 193, still landing at 46 degrees.
Yeah, still pretty good land angle. That's long, obviously.
Yep. Okay, let's throw the next one in. We've broken them down into 2 categories, and we'll explain why a little bit later. But let's put the Ai 200 in. This was one of our biggest selling golf clubs, the Apex, for a long time. Right. And put it up against 790, which was its direct competitor.
Exactly. I mean, these are 3 of the top selling clubs we got. And the only reason we don't sell as many Mizunos is probably because a little weaker loft, so it doesn't win in the bays. But I played I've hit all these clubs.
Yeah, you've literally
I actually played all these clubs, yep.
Okay, well let's see what the Ai 200 does at 90 miles an hour. All right, interesting. The face was only open 0.2 of a degree and it faded, but we might see some other data there on the 80 mile an hour where we see little fade biases coming in. We'll take a look at that. Spin rate was about the same. Carry was identical. Peak height was almost the same. Land angle was identical. You might see a theme coming here. We'll hit the next one. Let's go.
Right, keep going.
This is what we call the second category. We're going to go for the Mizuno Pro 245. Right. See what we get. Really nice.
Dead straight there, yeah.
Ooh. We also saw a little pickup in RPMs, a few hundred RPMs more.
Right.
2 yards less.
And we did see that at the 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's by slightly shorter than the others.
Tiny bit. And then we saw the same land angle because the peak height dropped down a little bit. So this is why we kind of talk about breaking these down into 2 categories. The 80 mile an hour test is going to tell us more, but we're going to bring up a chart that will show you the 90 mile differences too. Last one on the list, Titleist T250. We've seen this tested at 80 miles an hour and you'll see the same test data, but let's do one at 90 and see what we get.
Right down the middle.
Ooh, slightly under that ball speed. 193 carry again, 45 degree land angle, tiny bit shallower, 4,400 spin. So there was a big standout there in terms of RPMs.
Yeah, absolutely.
We saw that 4,400 in the T250, 4,600 in the 790, 4,700 in the Ai 200, but 5,000 in the 245. So the highest spinning, right, hollow body iron, yeah, which, what the point are we always trying to get across is what's good, what's bad, what's the best. What do you need?
Well, it depends on the player, right? So, but if you, and obviously, as we do on these high-speed tests, we're probably going to end up adding more spin to this. I mean, 90 miles an hour, we've probably got a little shaft angle too. But comparably one to another, they're definitely, makes sense.
Right.
Mizuno spins a little more, and that's probably why it goes a little shorter as well. I mean, it's only a yard.
Right.
But I tell you what, if you're a low-spin player, that would definitely be a reason to go that route than another.
Right. And then we look at land angles. There's almost identical in there. We look at ball speeds. There's tiny amounts of differences. So, like we said in the last thing, hopefully you're getting the picture. We are going to dive into some of the real deep answers which come from the 3D scan. And I guess I've got the 3D scan data. Okay, I'll kick it off. So we've looked at these clubs, and we've kind of, you can see on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, we split them into two categories, essentially, just because of the 3D data more than anything else. The top line thickness of the AI 200 and the P790 are the thickest. And yes, the AI 200 is a little bit thicker. And then you go to the 245 and the T250, we feel like these are aimed at slightly different players with slimmer top lines.
Yeah, they're slimmer top lines. They're actually, a little less offset as well, especially the Mizuno. The Mizuno is the lowest offset one, which if you don't like offset, and honestly, that's the part of the reason I didn't stick playing with the Mizunos is I play weaker loft short irons, and they're already no offset. So when you bend the pitching wedge, there's no offset, 2 degrees weak, now it looks onset and it drove me bonkers.
Yeah.
But love the clubs other than that. So, it's definitely different.
Yep. And then I'm going to go jump one. I'm going to go to blade length. We're talking about 1 millimeter basically across the board, maybe 1.5 millimeters from top to tail of the whole set.
Right.
So there's not much going on there. But the effective footprint, so this is what the club is meeting on the ground. This is how much that golf club is able to touch the ground through impact. Massive differences. We talk about 1,200 millimeters squared versus 935 in the Mizuno.
Mizuno is definitely a smaller footprint. Like I said, part of the reason I like that club is, I don't need a big footprint because I pick the ball. So, it's definitely quite a bit smaller.
Okay. So before we start explaining why that might be good or bad, let's jump into the 80 mile an hour test data from the group data. This has all been reviewed by Dr. Tom Mace. All the data scrubbed. This one here.
Right.
What I love about these is they're basically all the same loft. Titleist T250's got 0.5 degree more loft, but look at all those charts and numbers. Just run us through what you see. Well,
if you look at the launch angle, obviously the Titleist launch is about 0.5 degree higher, which makes total sense. It has to be more loft. You look at spin rates, the
Mizuno shows up the highest spin, but only by a
sniff. Especially, in this test, 80 miles an hour, that's, 300-400 RPMs, quite a bit.
Decent amount.
Right, so if you're a low spin player and need stopping power for that reason, the Mizuno makes sense.
Yep.
If you look at peak height, they're pretty damn close. Mizuno is the lowest one of the bunch, but by a yard or a foot.
Yep.
So pretty similar. Land angles, all identical. So
no trade-off there. You get what you get.
And that makes sense why the Mizuno is a tiny bit shorter. As you have more spin, which obviously, you get spin and speed, right? One's a trade-off of the other. You get a little lower ball speed because you get a little more spin. But some people need that. So it's really close.
It's really close.
Yep.
And then what we're looking at there, if you look at the distances all around, you're like, oh, they're pretty close. But if you look at the top and the bottom of the scale, Mizuno being the lowest at 164, Callaway being the highest at 168, there's half a club difference, and they're both identical loft and those kind of things.
Yeah, it's 80 miles an hour is a half club, right? So at 80 miles an hour, you're at 12 degrees spin clubs if your gap is right. A little bit.
All right. Yep. So now it really you've got the graph data, you've got the 90 mile an hour data. We can see that there's nuances there. So it really boils down to the 3D scan telling us what the delivery conditions might be for offset. We might want to look down at the top line, how the sole interacts with the ground. We think that's probably the biggest answer to what is forgiveness.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some people like to look at one versus the other, but they all look pretty good, and they all look pretty similar when you set them down on the ground, to be honest. That's why I play all those clubs. I like all these clubs and the shape they are. But, the difference is really, I'm looking at, keep in mind that as you change lofts, and some people do, right? So when you weaken them to add bounce or strengthen them like I do in the long irons because I hit it high enough, you got to take that into account. Well, every degree you adjust in loft, you adjust the bounce.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind as well. But really, it's the sole difference.
Yeah.
It's a little bit offset, and it's the sole difference in the interaction with the turf. And different angle attack, these clubs are going to work better for you depending on what you are.
And the one you've been hanging in there for is going to be the dispersion graphs, right? We all look at forgiveness and we like base all the weight on the dispersion graphs. And there's a reason why I've left these to last place, because it's interesting information, but we think there's more weight to be placed on this other information, which is the scan stuff. So let's check out the dispersion data, and we can comment all day, but you can kind of see the two splits, right? The Callaway and the TaylorMade both have identical thing happen when you hit them low on the face, right?
Right.
They kind of just drop off.
Yep.
But you get a little more bang for your buck for the distance, especially with the Callaway, right?
Right.
You do get that additional distance gain. And the Titleist and the Mizuno, they're like pushing towards this more controlled thing, but you are losing a couple of yards. So it's like,
it's a little
what do you need?
Yeah. And like I said, I think it really boils down to looking at, for sure you gotta like the look of it, right? From the back and for whatever, some, curb appeal, you call it, right? But when after you get past that, if there's a couple you like, it's really the turf interaction. So it's the sole, the width and the bounce, and the offset.
Yep.
And those are different.
And the other thing that we can't, I don't really think we can comment on it. Well, there is ways of measuring it, but it's the sound feel.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
And they may all, and I think they do, all have slightly different acoustics and slightly different feel characteristics. Yep. And then obviously the big one, which I'm sure a certain percentage of you, is the brand, right? You've got to have the right brand in the bag. So,
and all these are top brands too. Nobody's gonna be embarrassed carrying any one of these for sure. So they're all pretty much the best clubs in their category.
And that's it. We wanted to break this down. This information is what our fitters have in their hand. So when they're guiding you through, they're not guessing at which one's got the right top line, which one's going to give you a better footprint through the ground. They've got this information in their hands to help guide you through the process. You can see here, everybody these days is making amazing golf clubs that do great jobs. Certainly there's benefits and trade-offs in any category of golf club.
But like I said, these are close, so you got to look at what are actually the differences, and really footprint and bounce, and and the sole is turf interaction is going to be your big difference, right?
Yeah.
Now I will say something though. We picked these four because they're kind of relevant and they kind of look the same. There's quite a few other good Hollyback clubs.
Yeah.
There's a bunch more out there. So we'll touch on all those and get all those done. So eventually, I think this is probably worth revisiting as we get all of them in this category. To see where the differences are.
And there's I pick these off Loft basically, and their hollow body characteristic and their popularity.
Right.
Like you say, bunch more in there. Stay with the channel. We have got every single club will eventually be tested under these exact same parameters. We'll have all the graphs, all the scans, and of course, if you come to a Cool Club's fitting location, you're going to get this information from your fitter. We encourage everyone to get fit. I don't think this video could highlight any more importance of how, you've got to get out there in the field, test them, understand what you need, see these things in the real world. Book your fit in at coolclubs.com. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Give us all the feedback in the comments. We can't wait to hear it.
Yep. Great. Cheers.
See ya.